Hello, everybody. Brendan Marcello here, 24/7 Sports. The Pac-12 is going to be an interesting conference to watch this year, especially in the South Division, as you'll see today as we break down our Pac-12 order of finish predictions from our reporters on the ground on the West Coast and on our national team. Let's get right into it. Our voters picked the order of finish in both the North Division and the South Division, along with some superlatives: the Pac 12 champion, Pac 12 player of the year, coach of the year, and game of the year. So let's go through those quickly, and I'll share some of my thoughts. The North Division, no surprise here, Oregon at number one with 97 points, but closely followed behind them is Washington with 90 points. Washington, a team that should have been in the Pac 12 championship last year, but COVID ended their season prematurely. Washington picked up 5 first place votes from our reporters. Oregon picked up 12 votes from our reporters. So very close there. Number 3 is Cal. Number 4 is Stanford. Number 5 is Oregon State. And number 6 is Washington State. Now to the South Division. USC, the overwhelming pick to win the South and face Oregon in the Pac 12 championship game for a second straight year. They got 12 first place votes. But the South Division, we had 4 teams pick up at least one first place vote, which kind of shows you there's a lot of uncertainty behind USC. Number 2 is Utah. They had 2 first place votes. Number 3 is Arizona State. They also had 2 first place votes. Number 4 is UCLA. They had 1 first place vote. Number 5 is Colorado. Number 6, of course, is Arizona, which no one's expecting much out of. So interesting things there that I have a lot of thoughts on the South Division. Before we break those down, let's get quickly into these superlatives. Pac-12 champion, 6 people selected Oregon. 5 selected USC. 3 selected Washington. 2 selected Utah. 1 selected UCLA. Quite the splits there. Oregon and USC, obviously the favorite, but Washington's hanging around. Pac-12 player of the year, Keaton Slovis, quarterback USC, 9 votes. Next closest vote getter was Kayvon Thibodeau, the tremendous edge rusher out of Oregon, with 3 votes. Pac-12 coach of the year, this was split. Mario Cristobal at Oregon, 4 votes. Clay Helton also got 4 votes out of USC. Jimmy Lake out of Washington also got 4 votes. And then followed behind that 3-way tie is Kyle Whittingham at Utah with 3 votes. And Chip Kelly and Justin Wilcox also picked a vote apiece. Pac-12 game of the year, not much division here. Oregon at Washington, 11 votes, and Oregon at Utah with 2 votes, and USC at Arizona State with 2 votes. All right, so let's get down this breakdown of the predicted order of finish, starting in the North Division. It's going to be between Oregon and Washington. I don't think there's any doubt about that. With Oregon, though, I do wonder, my big question mark is with Anthony Brown at quarterback. Will he improve as the season goes along? Probably so. But what if that doesn't happen? Do we see 5-star freshman Ty Thompson get on the field potentially? I think it would take a near disaster for Anthony Brown to be pulled off the field. But if there's some weakness there, I don't think Mario Cristobal will hesitate to put Ty Thompson out there. Just my opinion, because he has talked up Ty Thompson so much over the last year. But this is the most talented roster in the entire Pac-12, including USC. I know a lot of people say USC is, but this to me is the most talented roster with Kayvon Thibodeau, CJ Verdell. And this is a group that should win the Pac-12 this season. Washington, though, is an interesting pick. Dylan Morris doesn't have a strong arm at quarterback, but he's efficient, and that fits the Washington scheme right now. But I think he continues to develop, is going to be a better quarterback at the end of this upcoming season. And the big thing they're going to lay their hat on is that defense. That's the best defense in the Pac-12, potentially the entire country. No surprise there with Jimmy Lake as the head coach. This is a team that's going to be in the thick of things throughout the season. Third with Cal, I'm not too hesitant against that pick by our writers. My big question is, what is that offense going to look like? It dipped a little bit last season. Is Chase Garbers going to be able to rebound at quarterback? I don't know that, but that dip last season was very concerning to me. Maybe it was because of COVID issues and just all the off-field distractions, but I was expecting more out of them last season, even though it was an abbreviated year. Stanford, this is where I kind of have some hesitancy just because they've got really a great receiver room despite losing their top two receivers from last season. But I wonder if they're going to hold it all together and whether Tanner McKee is going to be that guy at quarterback. And even then, how do they play? But having said that, they've got a lot of great position groups. I just have a big question at quarterback, like with a lot of teams. I think this is a Stanford team that could very well be very, very good, but also could be very, very bad if that quarterback spot just doesn't work out. And some of our writers straight up said this is going to be the worst year for Stanford, even compared to last season. They think the bottom is going to fall out, but we'll see. This is a very divided team among our experts. Oregon State, they get, Deshaun Fenwick at running back, the South Carolina transfer. Their offensive line is great. I would argue it's maybe number 2 or 3 in the conference. But outside that, there's not much. And this is about where they should be. Washington State, quarterback's a big question. Surprise, surprise, more quarterback questions. I'll just say this. If the quarterback ends up being Jarrett Garantano, the transfer from Tennessee, it's going to make me worry. I've seen the guy play quite a bit, and I just would make me worry. Max Borghi, just so fun to watch. I think that Washington State team does not finish last this year. I think Oregon State will, but I think Washington State could be in maybe a middle of the road team in the Pac-12 this year. We'll see. South Division quickly here. USC, it's the most talented roster in the South Division, not the Pac-12. I still think Oregon's up there above them, but they should win the South. Will they? I don't know. The offensive line worries me there. But their defensive line is going to be legit. It might end up being the best in the Pac-12, maybe one of the best top 3 in the country. They're going to make some noise up front this year on that defensive line. But Keaton Slovis, great quarterback, dipped a little bit last year. I wonder if he has any confidence in offensive line. It's a big question. They should still win the South, though. Utah, is Charlie Brewer going to be the answer at quarterback, the Baylor transfer? This will be the second straight year they're kind of leaning on transfer at quarterback. If Brewer kind of reverts back to what we saw at Baylor, not last season, but the year before, hey, Utah might very well challenge USC. We'll see. Arizona State, this is the second most talented roster in the South and should finish second and challenge for that top spot. But I don't think it's going to happen this year. I think there's way too much off the field issues there with the NCAA investigation, the internal investigation to improper recruiting tactics. A team can go one of two ways. I know that just sounds cliche, but when they're under investigation, either the team comes together or it kind of fractures at the first sign of adversity. We'll see how they do early in that schedule. UCLA, I think they're in for a surprise season here. I think Dorian Thompson-Robinson may very well be the second best quarterback in the Pac-12. He's not a guy that's been very consistent, but I think this is the year for him. I think it's a breakout year. He's got Kyle Phillips at receiver. I like UCLA this season. Watch out for them. Colorado, again, what will the quarterback play look like? The defense is above average. It's a very tough schedule. I think they fall off a little bit after that surprising first year under Carl Terrell. Arizona, this is beyond a rebuild for them. This is several years out. Jed Fish, a hire as the head coach that makes people scratch their heads. But to me, anything's better than Kevin Sumlin. That was a complete disaster there, as we all know. All right, so what are your thoughts? Go to 247sports.com. Lay out your feedback on our message boards, and also make sure you subscribe to the College Football Daily Podcast. I'm Brandon Marcello. See you down the road.